Hi all, I'm Mary Ronan. I oversee our after-school programs at Reinstein Woods Environmental Ed Center. But the magic really happens with Sarah here.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I am the environmental educator with the Friends of Reinstein Woods, and I led programming at two local elementary schools for their after-school programs.
So Reinstein Woods, our nature preserve lies within the suburbs of Buffalo, New York. So we're this little island of nature in the middle of a really populated area. But our internal surveys that our staff has done showed that the visitation from the nearby underserved communities is pretty low to our nature preserve. So we really wanted to use this specific program to better connect with our community. And as Sarah mentioned, we partnered with two really close schools for this. But then we also wanted to provide a needed service to those local students. And the two sites that we chose were actually closely connected to each other too. So even though they're separate school districts, they both fall within the same small watershed of this really historically polluted and human-altered creek called Scajaquada Creek, which is a tributary to the Great Lakes. And the creek actually runs through the property of one of the schools, and none of the students knew the name of that water body. So in addition to kind of meeting our goals through this program, we also wanted to support the goals of each of the 21st century sites. And so Sarah's going to go into a little bit more of how we were able to incorporate their goals for ELA and math into our lessons.
So through this programming at both sites, myself and four of our interns got to work really closely with the students. And together in the springtime, we performed weekly water testing throughout at both sites. So students got to experience recording and interpreting data from the Scajaquada Creek water samples. We also performed other experiments with them, like our acid rain experiment, where students created acidic solutions using some food grade like household materials. And then they used those solutions to water the plants. And through this, they gained experience with the scientific method all the way from hypothesis to conclusion. Another one of the experiments we did with the students was a schoolyard air quality experiment, during which the students used everyday materials like Vaseline and index cards to trap air particulates. So one of the schools had some construction happening on their street, and the students at this school noticed that their cards caught lots of dirt, and they were able to draw that connection between their results and the construction happening in their schoolyard. So for this experiment, we also gave them take-home experiments that were the same exact air quality experiment that we did with their schoolyard. So this gave them a chance to show and teach their families what they learned in the lessons that they did with us. And then our two fall interns also participated in a family night at one of our sites. This wasn't just with the group that we met with, but the entirety of the after-school program there. They said that the students that we worked with were really excited to bring their parents to our table to meet them. In terms of impact from our pre to post surveys, we recorded a major increase in the number of students who reported liking science a lot, with the complete disappearance of not at all as an answer. So that made me very excited to see. And then I also started most of our fall lessons with a short science trade story. So we used these stories to provide a prior knowledge base for students, since many students didn't have any experience to relate our lesson topics back to. And the illustrations in these books help students understand our concepts by providing a visual context for some of the words we were reading. And studies have found that reading storybooks to children is beneficial for their acquisition of novel words. And I noticed that when we used those new words and concepts in our lessons, they recognized them from when they showed up in the book. So we heard less students asking, what does that mean? And instead we had quotes like, I remember this because it was in the book. And then throughout our programming, we saw that students loved getting to go outside and learn, and they were more interested and engaged with our outdoor lessons. But unfortunately, being in Buffalo and having some of our programming running from January through April, and then from September through December, there was only a couple of times that we actually did get the chance to bring them outside.
Sarah and our interns led the weekly programming. So for myself, I was best able to understand those impacts by seeing like the outputs that the students were putting out. And so this letter, students worked in small groups to write a letter to their like local community about the Scajaquada Creek. And so this really highlighted the shift that we saw in the program from complete unawareness that a creek was even at their school and the name of it, to this real sense of ownership of this watershed. So they started off this letter, which goes on from here, but starts off by saying, "Dear reader, everyone reading this letter, listen up. The Scajaquada Creek is in danger, and I'm going to teach you some facts on how to save it." So that was pretty neat. I will say this is our second round to getting one of these eeBLUE grants, and these grants always push us to develop our very best programming. So we're really grateful for that, and provide the resources for us to do that. So moving on from here, we do plan to build on the relationships that we've formed with both of these local sites, where Sarah has already started to lead programming. So we're going to continue to lead this free weekly programming for the sites, but we're also looking to expand it. So we've expanded to another site that one of the providers for the 21st Century Partners has at a different school that's nearby. And we also wanted to try to expand, again, those outdoor programs as much as possible. So this time when we scheduled the program, we asked that the staff knew that it was going to be all outdoors if possible. Luckily, we're able to do this one in the month of May, so fingers crossed that works. But yeah, that was ways that we were able to incorporate student feedback and Sarah and staff experiences to really build on this program and make it better.